Hello, my name is Sharissa Olivarez, and today I will be informing you on the different saxophones in the saxophone family. A little bit you should know about the saxophone. The saxophone was created around the 1840s by a Belgian man named Adolphe Sax. It was originally created to be a bridge between the brass and the woodwind section, even though it is considered a woodwind instrument. There are four main types of saxophones, each in a different register. The main types, which you may have heard of, are the soprano saxophone, the alto saxophone, the tenor saxophone, and the baritone saxophone. The soprano saxophone is in the key of B flat. The alto saxophone is in the key of E flat. The tenor saxophone is in the key of B flat as well. And the baritone saxophone is also in the key of E flat. The beginner saxophone is known as the alto saxophone, as it is the one that every saxophone player is told to start on. This is my alto saxophone. I have had it since I was in 6th grade, and it has never let me down. There are different types of music genres that a saxophone can be used in. The saxophone can be used in a wind ensemble, also known as a concert band. It can be used in symphony, even though it is rare, since it was created a little time after symphonic music was created. Saxophones can be used in jazz, the most popular type of music that a saxophone is used in. And a saxophone can also be used in marching band. As a marching band student, I can say with certainty that it is very fun to be in marching band and play the saxophone, even though it does weigh on your neck. There are saxophones you may or may not have heard of. There is the bugle saxophone, the soprillo saxophone, the slide saxophone, the conosax saxophone, and the contrabass saxophone. The differences between each saxophone is that the soprano saxophone looks a little bit like a clarinet, but it is still made out of metal. The alto saxophone has a straight neck, and it is bigger than the soprano saxophone. The tenor saxophone is a bit bigger than the alto saxophone and has a curved neck to give it its deep, rich sound. The baritone saxophone has a circular neck and is bigger than the tenor saxophone to give it its deep sounding notes. The bugle saxophone has no buttons whatsoever and is dependent on the sounds made from the air of the player. The subcontrabass saxophone is the biggest saxophone in saxophone history. It is also the biggest saxophone that you can play. The slide saxophone looks a little bit like a slide whistle, and in some cases, it will also have a leather strap. The cono saxophone is straight and has a knot at the bottom of the bell, kind of like an oboe. The contrabass saxophone is slightly larger than the baritone saxophone. It is also deeper than the baritone saxophone. The sopranino saxophone is smaller than a soprano saxophone. It is also more high-pitched. The soprillo saxophone is the smallest saxophone in the saxophone family and is higher pitched than the sopranino. And the C-tone saxophone looks a little bit like a tenor saxophone, but it is not a transposable instrument, which means it plays in the same key as a piano or a flute. I would like to thank you for your time. I hope that this has taught you a little bit more about the saxophone family, and I will see you in the next presentation.